Ladies and gentlemen, I have something important to tell you today.
Everyone in the room turned to look at my husband.
My wife, Emily, has a debt of $200,000. I am saddened to have such a foolish wife.
The relatives around us looked at me with puzzled faces.
What did you say?
Emily, is that true?
My in-laws also looked surprised. However, I was not fazed at all. Debt? That's not mine. It's his foolish new bride's. I looked into my husband's eyes and said with a snort. My in-laws and other relatives were even more puzzled.
What's going on, Emily? John, what's up with you guys?
Hey, John, spit it out. Who's this foolish bride you're talking about?
The in-laws pressed us for answers. Then, with an innocent look on his face, my husband began to speak.
There's no way I would lie, right? Parents should trust what their son says.
Saying that, he pulled a piece of paper from his bag.
This is the proof, Emily. You can't run from this.
He confidently held up the paper for all to see. It was a promissory note with my name on it. I am Emily, 30 years old. After graduating from high school, I went to a vocational school for video production and have been working as a CG creator at a production company in the city. 2 years ago, I reconnected with John, who was in the same class as me in high school. The opportunity came at a reunion marking 10 years since we graduated from high school. During high school, I had no romantic feelings for John. Back then, he was the type to play in the corner of the classroom with a few others. He wasn't a romantic prospect for me. But the John I met after so long seemed like a completely different person. Wait, are you really the same John? You seem like a different person.
Do I? I don't think I've changed that much.
He had become impressively handsome. At that moment, I fell for him at first sight. I bit the bullet and confessed my feelings to John, and he accepted them. We started living together while we were dating. Then, on my birthday night, he proposed to me. I accepted with a huge smile on my face. 2 years have passed since then, and we spent my birthday night together. That day is also our proposal anniversary. John, it's been 2 years since then.
Yeah, feels like yesterday.
While chatting about this and that, my husband made a suggestion.
So, we're going to my folks' place for Christmas, right?
Since getting married, I've been going to his parents' house every year with him. But this time, I found it odd and tilted my head. We had been there for Christmas the past 2 years after all. It was an annual tradition, so it was already expected without him having to mention it. However, he made a point of confirming it with me. It felt less like he was just confirming and more like he had something he wanted to say. The next day, while cleaning his room, I found something shocking. What is this? Feeling a surge of anger towards John, I decided to carry out a plan. When Christmas came, we headed to his parents' house together. Using the freeway, it took us about 2 hours to get there.
Hey, Dad, Mom, we're home.
John announced loudly as he rang the doorbell. John, you don't need to shout. You've already pressed the bell. He responded seriously.
Dad and Mom are hard of hearing lately, so I have to speak up, or they won't notice.
Indeed, my in-laws were nearing their 70s. It wouldn't be surprising if their hearing had declined, but I felt his way of putting it was a bit too blunt. However, I didn't dwell on it and waited for a response from inside the house. After a while, my in-laws came to greet us.
John, it's been a while. Emily, welcome. Come in, come in. We have delicious dishes waiting for you.
My in-laws are very kind people. When I got married, I was worried about whether I would get along with them. But such concerns were unnecessary. They welcomed me warmly. There are plenty of stories about difficult relationships with in-laws, but I feel truly blessed to have them. Thinking this, I went with my husband to the living room. There were many of my husband's relatives in the spacious living room. He is the second of 4 siblings, and that day, everyone had gathered. All 4 brothers were married. I went around greeting the relatives. Fortunately, they were all very calm and kind, and I've never had any trouble with family relations. After the greetings, I sat down and drank some water brought by my mill.
Everyone, please eat your fill.
She said while serving the food. I took her up on the offer and started eating the spread of dishes on the table. John was having a good time talking and drinking with his brothers and relatives. I also engaged in lively conversations with the relatives. After some time, John suddenly stood up and announced loudly,
Ladies and gentlemen, I have something important to tell you today.
Everyone present turned to look at my husband.
My wife, Emily, has a debt of $200,000. I am saddened to have such a foolish wife.
The relatives around us then looked at me with puzzled expressions.
What did you say?
Emily, is that true?
The in-laws seemed shocked, their eyes wide open. However, I was not fazed at all. Debt? That's not mine. It's his foolish new bride's. I retorted, laughing through my nose while looking into John's eyes. The in-laws and other relatives looked even more confused.
Emily, what in the world are you talking about? John, what's going on?
Hey John, come out with it. Who is this foolish bride you're talking about?
The in-laws pressed us for answers. Then, with an unaffected expression, my husband began to speak.
There's no way I would lie, right? Parents should trust what their son says.
He stated, then pulled a piece of paper from his bag.
This is the proof. Emily, you can't run from this.
He confidently raised a paper high. It was a promissory note with my name on it. Why would you have such a thing? I don't remember signing this. I said truthfully, but I felt cold stares from the relatives. My husband continued.
As it stands, I'm considering divorcing Emily. First, be honest and apologize to the relatives here.
I sighed deeply. What an impossible person. I murmured, feeling a laugh rise within me. You're right, being honest and apologizing is best. But shouldn't that be coming from you, John? John tilted his head at my words.
What are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? Only someone unhinged would borrow such a large amount.
He scoffed at me. In the next moment, Mill looked at me and said,
Emily, what's this about? There's a promissory note, and with all this sudden talk, I'm about to lose my mind. We can't just leave things unclear. I want to hear your side of the story too.
She spoke while looking me straight in the eyes. My Phil had tears in his eyes. Seeing the in-laws like this, my eyes started to well up with tears too. Feeling guilty about betraying the trust of my in-laws and the other relatives, I stated the facts clearly. I repeat, I did not borrow $200,000. In fact, I don't have any debt at all. That's the truth. After saying this firmly, John next to me slammed his hand on the table.
I have something to say.
He declared as he stood up.
Emily, you've been cheating, haven't you?
I was stunned. It was creepy how he confidently brought up such baseless accusations in front of all the relatives.
Recently, Emily has been acting strange. She's constantly checking her phone sneakily and has started working more weekends. These are all signs of cheating I read about online. That's why when I did some digging, I found this promissory note. And where did you borrow from? I've never heard of this financial company. I can't live with a woman who deals with loan sharks. I want a divorce.
To me, John's story sounded like a joke. He continued.
Why are you silent? You're ruining our Christmas with your nonsense. Just admit it, you're swamped in debt.
I responded with full force. As you said, it's time to tell the truth. But I've been telling the truth all along. It's John who needs to come clean. He's blown his savings on mobile game microtransactions, leaving his bank account empty. And last year, he got into trouble with payday loans. At this point, John began to look uneasy. But you said borrowing money was fine as long as it got paid back eventually. At my words, John's face turned pale.
What are you talking about? I don't remember doing such things.
John's words had lost their bravado from earlier. My in-laws and other relatives looked at him skeptically. Let me explain the sequence of John's debts. It all started last winter when he apparently made one microtransaction after another, close to $10,000, I suppose. At this moment, the relatives murmured among themselves. It's often heard in the news about excessive spending on games, but they probably never expected it to be true for someone in their family. John's income is slightly above average for his age, and we could live comfortably under normal circumstances. But with that level of spending on games, financial strain was inevitable. He didn't stop at his own savings, but even considered dipping into our household funds. Murmurs arose again among the relatives. John's face turned pale as he avoided eye contact. That's when I warned John not to touch our household money. He respected that, but he continued borrowing from payday lenders to fund his gaming habit. I explicitly told him I would never cover his debts, and I even put it in writing. But it seems he grew tired of the game and stopped making in-game purchases. I wonder if it's right to continue living under the same roof with John. At that time, I was really struggling with these thoughts. I continued. Last summer, the problem arose again. John was coming home late, so I did some digging. It turned out he was taking his colleagues to hostess bars, claiming he would foot the bill. I said this while looking into John's eyes. I had never discussed this matter with him before. His eyes widened in shock.
How do you know I was frequenting hostess bars and treating my colleagues?
That's not all. John, I know about the affair you had with a girl you met at the bar. At that moment, the room buzzed again. The in-laws looked sharply at John. He turned pale and retorted,
It's my right to spend the money I earn however I want.
I couldn't trust John's statements that he would repay the debts without bothering me. You want to divorce me to remarry that woman, right? I also know that you've accumulated a significant amount of debt to lavish money on that woman. The promissory note was fabricated for that reason. I don't recall signing any notes, Besides, forging a promissory note is a crime. John was left gaping, speechless. John, you said earlier you were considering divorcing me. I agree with that decision. Then I pulled out a large envelope from my bag. I've done some thorough investigation beforehand, so let me present you with the concrete evidence. I took out documents and photos from the envelope, explaining them so that all the relatives could see. I had previously hired a detective agency because I had been suspicious of my husband's activities. As a result, he was having an affair. There were numerous photos clearly showing him in intimate situations with another woman. Furthermore, he had borrowed $200,000 to lavish on this woman. I confronted the relatives with these results. As expected, John didn't stay silent.
You can't trust such a shady detective agency. That could be a doctored photo. Emily is a CG creator. After all, she could have manipulated various photos to frame me. I have the promissory note here.
Then John thrust a promissory note at me. So, you're saying the detective agency can't be trusted? Then what is this? I presented something in front of him.
Oh, that is.
John stammered. What I had found while cleaning his room after my birthday was an unfinished divorce petition and a marriage registration form. The in-laws were quite shocked by this. The marriage registration already had another woman's name and personal information filled in. I was surprised at how prepared you were, not just divorcing me, but you already have your next marriage lined up. And to think I had these papers for nearly a week and you didn't notice at all. You're quite oblivious. Aren't these marriage papers important to you? You should have some sense of crisis management. John looked down and fell silent. I apologized to the relatives and left the scene. Later, we decided to have a discussion including the in-laws about the debts and the divorce. A few weeks later, John and I, along with the in-laws, gathered again at his parents' house. The moment everyone sat down, John glared at me.
Just apologize to me. Then we wouldn't have to deal with all this mess.
He clearly hadn't learned his lesson. What are you talking about? Shouldn't you be the one apologizing? John retorted sharply to my words.
You're spouting nonsense, trying to make me out to be a criminal. That's enough.
I said, letting out a big sigh. Fine, let's clear this up. I said and called someone from the next room.
Nice to meet you. I'm the attorney, Michael Smith.
John looked at him with wide eyes.
I've been consulting with Emily about a divorce. Probably what John was worried about, Emily's working on weekends, was because she was meeting at the detective agency for an investigation. Thanks to Emily's cooperation, we've been able to gather a lot of evidence about John's affair.
John turned pale. The attorney proceeded.
Furthermore, when we showed the promissory note John had to a document examiner, it was proven to be fake. Here are the results.
The attorney showed the report in front of the in-laws. It clearly stated that the promissory note was forged. The in-laws looked at John with disdain.
This proves John was lying. It's disgraceful that my son would forge a promissory note.
My Mill said that with a look about to cry. And my Phil exclaimed,
You're a disgrace to our family. You need to pay for your sins.
John, in surprise, spoke to his father.
Dad, I'm not guilty. I'm innocent.
There was no sympathy for John, who spoke in desperation. Then my Phil stood up and was about to hit John. My Mill and I managed to calm him down. Afterward, I made a declaration to the in-laws. I'm the only victim here, so could you please leave matters concerning John to me and the attorney? I asked, while the attorney next to me made eye contact with the in-laws.
Emily, John has really troubled you, hasn't he? I apologize on behalf of my son.
My mill said so and apologized to me. And my Phil was still red-faced and angry.
Such a disgraceful son. Forging a promissory note is unbelievable.
I felt that my father-in-law's words were filled with anger and love. Eventually, through dealings with the attorney, my innocence was proven. John and I got divorced, and the in-laws, along with the rest of the family, cut ties with him. John was left with debts and no one to rely on. Though we could have sued him for forgery, John declared to the attorney and me that he would repay the borrowed money himself, so I decided not to press charges. Meanwhile, the ordeal had stressed me out, and I ended up needing psychiatric care for a while. I took a month off work, but my understanding boss approved my leave. During my recovery, John's parents contacted me.
We've explained everything to our family, so don't worry.
If you need anything, feel free to rely on us.
John's parents' words encouraged me. Since returning to work, I've been working hard every day. However, I still occasionally have nightmares about John. Recovering from the mental shock will probably take time. I still visit the hospital every 2 months. After all, it was a deep betrayal by someone I once loved deeply. Yet, I felt saved by the kindness of my in-laws. And the people at my workplace were very understanding. I'm really grateful for this because mental matters aren't easily understood by others. Rumors say that John, my ex-husband, has quit his job. The scandal seemed to have spread through his company, leaving him with no place there. He's now working part-time jobs from morning till night to pay off his debts. Moreover, his affair partner left him after finding out about his debts. It serves him right. Since returning to work, I've been involved in a project as a CG creator for a new animated series. I'm really excited about this highly anticipated work. For now, I've decided to prioritize my work over romantic relationships. I'm determined to diligently handle the tasks before me at my own pace.